In the spring of 1811, workers tearing down an old tobacco warehouse in Richmond, Virginia, uncovered a chilling secret beneath rotting floorboards: 8 identical wooden boxes, each containing a man's wedding ring and a small vial of what seemed to be medicinal powder. The rings bore different names and dates, but all were linked to Ruth Holloway, a woman who outlived 8 wealthy husbands over 30 years. The vial's contents would unravel the carefully crafted image of this refined widow, once celebrated in Virginia society. The local magistrate sealed the discovery from public record, citing the risk to prominent families' reputations. For 2 centuries, this case lay buried in the Virginia Historical Society's archives. Tonight, we uncover the truth about one of America's most methodical killers. The story of Ruth Holloway begins not with murder, but with a tragedy that shaped the fates of 8 men. In 1782, Virginia was a land reshaped by the Revolutionary War, which had ended 3 years earlier. Along the James River, grand plantations stood as symbols of new American wealth. The war's scars lingered, Loyalist properties had been seized, creating a new class of patriot elites while leaving others destitute. Into this world of shifting fortunes stepped Ruth Holloway. Ruth arrived in Richmond in autumn 1782, a striking woman of 28 with auburn hair and eyes like winter mist. She claimed to be the widow of Captain Jonathan Holloway, a Continental Army officer killed at Yorktown. Her tale was poignant. She had lost everything in the war and sought a fresh start in Virginia's prosperous tobacco region. Her beauty was matched by her intelligence. She spoke with a cultured New England accent, read Latin, and knew medicinal herbs extensively. In an era of scarce doctors, her healing skills made her invaluable to Richmond's elite. Ruth carried a leather-bound journal of remedies supposedly inherited through generations. The gentry welcomed her warmly. The war had reduced the number of eligible women, and Ruth's refinement and medical expertise filled a void. Within months, she settled in a modest Clay Street house, treating ailments from fevers to nervous disorders. But beneath Richmond's polished surface, darker currents stirred. The war had birthed profiteers and traitors. Whispers circulated of men who switched sides for gold, ambushed supply convoys, and betrayed patriot leaders to the British. Some suspected a secret organization of collaborators, but evidence was scarce. These men thrived post-war, rewarded with confiscated properties and lucrative contracts. Ruth had an uncanny knack for attracting Virginia's most prominent tobacco merchants, shipping magnates, land speculators, and politicians. Each fell for her charm, married her with fanfare, and died under circumstances that seemed natural at the time but raised suspicion today. The first whispers of trouble came from slaves in the great houses. They spoke of strange illnesses striking their masters after marriage, stomach pain, weakness, then death. In a society where slave testimony held no weight, their observations were dismissed as superstition. First death came on a humid August night in 1783, 6 months after Ruth married Colonel Edmund Fairfax, a robust tobacco merchant of 45. His servant, Jupiter, found him dead in his study at dawn on August 15. Jupiter later told other slaves what he saw, though his account never reached white ears. Awakened at midnight by moans, he peered through the study window. Fairfax clutched his stomach, ashen and sweating, while Ruth offered a steaming cup of medicinal tea. "Drink this, Edmund," she said soothingly. "I prepared it with care." Fairfax, in pain, hesitated but drank. Within minutes, he convulsed and collapsed. Ruth stood motionless, then calmly rinsed the cup in a prepared basin before screaming for help. Dr. Harrison, arriving at dawn, found Ruth in convincing grief. She described Fairfax's gastric distress, blaming tainted food and recent business stress. Harrison's examination found no signs of violence. Gastric ailments were common in Virginia's climate. He recorded the death as acute gastric fever. Unbeknownst to him, Ruth's family remedies came from a sinister source. In Philadelphia, en route to Virginia, she had befriended Dr. Marcus Wainwright, a disgraced physician expelled for experimenting with untraceable plant-based poisons. Ruth mastered his methods, combining alkaloids with herbs to create remedies that healed in small doses but killed in larger ones. Her journal wasn't a family heirloom, it was a manual for murder. Fairfax's funeral drew Richmond's elite. Ruth fainted graveside, earning sympathy. His will left her a substantial inheritance, the Clay Street house, gold, and land. Within 3 months, she courted Captain William Randolph, a shipping magnate who profited from wartime supply runs. Her quick recovery raised eyebrows, but a lone widow needed protection, and Randolph was honorable. Unbeknownst to her admirers, Ruth targeted men from a secret group, the Covenant of Prosperity, that had betrayed her first husband by leaking intelligence to the British during the war. Fairfax had been their treasurer, distributing British gold to traders. Randolph died in January 1784, 8 months after their wedding, from what Dr. Harrison called bilious fever after 3 days of stomach pain. Slaves, including old Caesar from Randolph's household, noted similarities to Fairfax's death. Ruth's medicinal tea, her calm demeanor, her refusal to call a doctor. Caesar found a vial of white powder smelling of almonds and bitter herbs hidden in the study. He showed it to Jupiter, now in another household, who recalled a similar vial at Fairfax's home, discarded on the cook's orders. The slave community tracked Ruth's habits. She prepared her husband's medicines, kept a locked chest, and gathered wild plants on secretive forest walks. Ruth's wealth and social standing grew with each death. Her third husband, Judge Thomas Henley, married her in June 1785. He died in January 1786 during a dinner party, collapsing after drinking Ruth's digestive tonic. Dr. Harrison, called again, grew suspicious but lacked evidence. Ruth's witnesses, impeccable reputation, and natural symptoms shielded her. The pattern continued. Plantation owner George Carrington died of dyspepsia in 1787. Merchant Samuel Bradford of nervous fever in 1788. Banker Edward Custis of gastric apoplexy in 1789. Each death enriched Ruth, her grief more theatrical, her remarriages fueling whispers of unnatural coincidence. In 1789, Dr. Wainwright arrived in Richmond, living quietly but visited by Ruth at dusk. Caesar, now nearby, noticed. Wainwright knew Ruth's true identity and blackmailed her for a share of her inheritances, supplying new poisons. Ruth tolerated him until his demands grew reckless. In February 1791, Wainwright died, apparently by his own poisons. The magistrate ruled it suicide. Ruth, free of his threat, targeted her seventh husband, Alexander Fitzhugh, a merchant who betrayed American convoys. They married in March 1791. He died in July, his heart attack blamed on natural causes. Captain Jonathan Hale, a federal investigator, arrived in 1790 to probe wartime treason. His friendship with Dr. Harrison revealed the pattern of Ruth's husband's deaths. Digging deeper, Hale found no record of a Captain Jonathan Holloway at Yorktown. Ruth's identity was fabricated. Hale learned her husbands were Covenant members and her true husband, a British spy executed in 1779, had been betrayed by them, not for patriotism, but to silence his blackmail attempts. Ruth wasn't avenging a patriot. She was a loyalist seeking revenge. Hale warned Governor Edmund Randolph, the Covenant's leader and Ruth's final target. Randolph, intrigued by Ruth's skill, saw her as an asset. In June 1792, he confronted her at a private dinner, revealing he knew her identity and proposing an alliance. Ruth learned of a Ninth Covenant member, Hale, who had identified her husband. She planned to kill both men at a dinner on August 15, 1792, using foxglove and hemlock for Randolph and a contact poison for Hale. Randolph, tipped off by informants, brought forged documents to expose her. Hale, sensing danger, carried a pistol. At dinner, Ruth poisoned their drinks, but Randolph's confidence and Hale's tension alerted her. In the library, she revealed their roles in her husband's death. Hale lunged. Ruth blinded him with an irritant. Randolph tackled her, but she shot him with a hidden pistol. Hale, recovering, fell to a decanter blow. Ruth staged a fight, binding herself to appear as a victim. Servants found Randolph shot, Hale bludgeoned, and Ruth bound in a closet. Her story, Hale accused Randolph of treason, leading to a fatal struggle, held up. Dr. Harrison's examination supported her, and the investigation closed quickly. Ruth retired to a quiet life, wielding influence behind the scenes. She died in 1008, 134 at 80. Her coded journal, found post-mortem, detailed her murders and schemes, revealing a woman who saw herself as an agent of justice. Authorities sealed it to protect reputations. Modern experts marvel at her undetectable poisons and manipulation. Ruth's story shows how intelligence and patience can turn a grieving widow into a monster, exploiting society's trust to deadly ends. Could her methods work today? Would modern forensics catch her? Her legacy warns of predators hiding in plain sight.